What's up, guys? Every day. No, not every day. I'm not always grateful for my recovery. It's a fucking bitch sometimes. It's a pain in the ass, dude. Let's just be real. Sometimes, like it says in the big book, I haven't really wanted like a drink for many years, but there's this one line that says something about wishing we could get away with taking a half dozen drinks. There's times where I wish that I could just, drink and use things like a normal person. But there's a lot of times, most of the time I'm very grateful for my recovery, and not just because it's, the only reason I'm alive, but because it's given me a map as I've navigated, as I've had to navigate to survive the best and the worst of human behaviors, and finding out about trauma and my own childhood trauma more recently, and surviving a decade with people on the cluster B spectrum. Well, now I suspect there's a lot more of that going back my whole life, in my family in particular. But when I was that diagnosed, I didn't know anything, whatchamacallit, in my frontal lobes. I didn't know anything in my mind about NPD and BPD and all this stuff until 2015. and the depths of it and what it actually means, I've been learning through painful lesson after painful lesson over the past 8 years. But being in actual recovery, being a person of conscience, being somebody that has actual empathy, these are incredibly valuable skills or characteristics to have. It's kind of both. It's kind of both. Emotional intelligence is something that we can develop, and empathy and the neural wiring for mirror neurons. It's debatable whether this stuff is non-existent in people with cluster B disorders, or if it's so damaged, or how much of it is a choice and all that kind of stuff. It's quite a big morass to dive into, the psychology, philosophy, and all the rest of it. Biology, brain neurobiology, immunology, all of these fields are very cutting edge. I mean, they barely came into existence in recent decades, let alone have they really started studying in much depth these characters. We're already 3 minutes. These kind of outlying disorders, but these things that are juxtaposed against normal people, normal brains, it can't help to study them to give a deeper and a more clear understanding of both what's within the range of normal and what is pathological, and where does that show up in the actual brain and wiring and stuff like that. Jadina mentioned that word the other day, juxtaposition. I love it. It's one of my favorite professors in school. Talked about it a lot, especially in Japanese garden design. It's a really powerful design tool to enhance certain elements and make things pop out, or to hide things, or to blend things, especially in garden and landscape design, where it's a three-dimensional space to be moved through. It's really powerful, but it can be really powerful too, also in two-dimensional art. And just in life, sometimes we know what one thing is because of its proximity to something that's absolutely not that. And this is how the cluster B disorders hide out for so long. Sometimes it's extremely obvious when you're dealing with overt psychopaths and sociopaths that are, on murderous rampages or whatever. But a lot of times, especially, because they've gotten so good at hiding it for decades, their whole life is about hiding it. They blend in with the rest of humanity quite well, a lot of times. Quite well. What was this about? This wasn't supposed to be about them. I guess it kind of was. It kind of was. talking about recovery and empathy, and how I'm grateful for my 20 years in recovery now, and the fact that I have empathy and a moral conscience, and that I look in the mirror first always, because my life depends on it. My daily continued existence depends on me doing that and being honest and accountable. And all these narcissists that are in my life, these infestations, they are constitutionally incapable of being honest or accountable for 5 minutes. They can't look in the mirror. It would cause narcissistic collapse, complete and utter dissolution of their fragile, their little fucking narc ego shell. Helium balloon, that's what their egos are. They seem so big and powerful, but just one flick, one little pinprick, just a puddle of fucking shit on the ground. And all of their supply is intended to keep pushing helium, hot air, up there, and patching the little nips and tears and things that they get all over the place from truth and reality. And any kind of reality ultimately is going to shatter their false self, because their entire existence is built on one or more false selves, false belief systems, et al., ad nauseum. So being in recovery for a long time, studying in depth, what these disorders are, what they mean, how they present in the world, why they're so rarely actually diagnosed, and all the rest of it, and the problems of dealing with these disorders, in between psychology, psychiatry, and philosophy, when we're talking about issues of good and evil, I've had to do this for my survival for the past 10 years, and it's made me acutely aware of these people and when they show up. I saw them out linguistic fingerprints a little while back, and it's really powerful. It's really powerful because knowing what real empathy is, knowing what love is, understanding what God's light is and actually does, allows for the juxtaposition and a stark contrast of what these people do. Even though some of them are really good, I don't know how loud that is, so I'm going to just pause for a second. Medical helicopter look like. Some of them are master illusionists. They're really good at lying and deceiving people. Some of them are really good at copying the spiritual language, especially the language of therapy, the language of mental health, the language of medical professionals, etc. And most people that hold these others, if you're not in that field yourself, and if you don't know anything about these disorders, people are gonna put them in a position of authority, and so whatever they say often just kind of goes unquestioned. Which is why in most professions that have some measure of power over other people, and there's a power differential between the professional and the people that they're serving or their clients and stuff, there's usually boards of ethics to make sure that people aren't behaving and abusing their power and behaving immorally, especially in the medical field and psychology, psychiatry, stuff like that. And in the police and politics and stuff like that, there's supposed to be laws in place that that make sure that people aren't abusing their power and harming others under the color of law, under the color of their professional licensure or whatever it may be. Some of them are really good at lying, dude. I've encountered some in recent years that it's like, I thought some of them I've dealt with are like top tier. They're top of their fucking game. So it tends to be much harder for other ones to come in after dealing with those, and especially the more intimately you deal with them, the harder it is for somebody to come in from left field and play the same kind of games. And they all come down to like 3 or 5, like a half dozen different games they play. They're all very specific, legal arenas that they like to break, depending on their flavor, depending on who they like to abuse, their favored targets. Their favorite. It's just sickening, man. It's just sickening. Anyways, empathy and being in recovery, being healed, being on the healing journey, you know. Having been on this journey for some time, so I can usually suss these people out pretty quick. A lot of times you can just see it in their eyes, especially the more violent, pathological ones. For me, anyways, you know, I've been around the block enough times. Having a PTSD service dog doesn't hurt either. She's helped rewire my nervous system a lot these last couple of years. But in terms of the lower level ones, dude, I got these people coming in, you know, left, right, and center on social media and different places, and it's like the narc shit is so dumb, dude. It's so boring and it's so empty. It's so empty. Because they can't have discussions or dialogues about anything real, anything substantial. When they come in, they're always coming in for an advantage. They're trying to get their hooks into you in some way, shape, or form, so they can cause damage. They can like rip out the freaking rug from underneath you, because that's the only thing that they do. They steal, they kill, and they destroy, and they lie. It's an interesting thing. I said this in one video a long time ago. Satan is not the father of murder. He's not the father of evil. I mean, he's called the evil one, but his primary names are the accuser and the father of lies. These are seen as the most serious forms of evil and sin in the Old Testament. Thousands, millions of people's lives can and did and do depend on telling the truth. Everything does. There's no way to function. There's no way to function in society or in relationships that are built on lies, dude. It's just, it can't work. It doesn't, and it can't. In the information age, it's like there's more ways to be able to verify things, but there's more ways for people to lie and get creative and scam and do all of their shit as well. Fascinating dichotomy. But anyways, dude, when you're dealing with narcs, dude, once you've been at it for a little bit, they always repeat. The patterns are always the same, and the language is always the same. The language is always the same. If you're in recovery, if you have empathy, and if you're healing, if you're on the healing path, or especially if you've been on it for a while, they'll be saying things that just they simply don't fit in with a person who is also on the path. Because you can't fake empathy. Empathy doesn't try to hurt others intentionally. It doesn't intend to deceive and come in order to rip the fucking rug out from underneath somebody later on. A healed person, a healing person, anyone who cares and has even the slightest concept of God could never do any of these things. They're mutually exclusive. They're completely incompatible. Healed and healing people who love God by whatever name and however slim of a fucking thread that might be. Even atheists. I don't think normal people can hurt others on purpose. I really think it's only the evil, like the cluster B disorders, that plan and then carry out these things. Or if, on the BPD end of the spectrum, they're just in such chaos all the time. There's no planning. It just happens. Chaos factors of intermittent psychopathy. When you care about life, you don't try to hurt and destroy it on purpose. You don't participate in plots and conspiracies to hurt other people and to lie to them and to deceive them and to gather intelligence on them and to bring in false narratives and to further push conspiracies and help others to cover up conspiracies and crimes, hate crimes. these things are mutually exclusive. They're incompatible. And so, you know, for me, when I've had any of these fucking characters come in recent times, for the most part in recent years, you know, I've gotten to where my relationships are few and far between at this point, following the events of 2021 and 22. But for the most part, I smell them from far off. A lot of times I can see them without even having to have a conversation, but they talk different. They talk different. They come in and they'll be doing this like fake mirroring, projection, reflecting. They'll say really inappropriate things, extremely patronizing things, assumptions, and Mira. Hopping way over boundaries. Pretending to be not only on the same team, not only people of the light and people of healing, but they'll pretend to be at the same level as you. If you've been doing this for 5, 10, 20 years, they'll pretend that they've been doing it for 22 years, and so they can come in and give you advice and direction on your healing process. They'll pretend that they just started and that they've had similar experiences to you. Quantum leaps. They love talking about how they had a kid with a narcissist, or their father, mother, ex-lover, whoever was fucking a narc. They love that shit. But as soon as you start getting into any kind of details, any kind of actual information, everything just falls apart. Everything falls apart. Or a lot of times it falls apart before they even start trying to say any of this stuff, because you've already had interactions with them and you know that this is not a part of their story. I've had a handful of situations recently where people are coming in and doing things and saying things and playing their little goblin games, and then saying shit about like partying and drugs and drinking and all this stuff, you know, immediately revealing that they don't know who I am. They haven't watched any of my content. They're not on the same. They're not in recovery. It's not even like a remote fucking wisp of anything in their mind. And some of them who have been, you know, being hired and paid by other people will start regurgitating parts of this story that there's, it's not real. It's not real in the first place, and nothing that I've said anywhere to them or anyone else. And so I'll immediately I know who, what, why, where they came from, what they're there for, what they're actually trying to say, what they're doing, and who they're passing on intelligence to. Intelligence. Fucking stupidity. Fucking stupidity, man. Narcissist, dude. Scourge of the earth. Scourge of the fucking earth. Anyways, some Tuesday morning walk in the park thoughts. Fucking dude. Over. Leave it. Mirabai. Leave it. Sit. Thank you. Don't go near that dog. Thank you. Nope, I'm not playing with you. Stay. So just, you know, quick note for all of you out there. I know each and every one of you, when you come in, try to play these games with me. I ain't the one, dude. I ain't the one. It's not gonna work. Above and beyond that, there's serious potential legal repercussions for what you're engaging in. Other than that, for all the human beings on my channel, thank you and God bless. I fucking love you. Thanks for being part of my actual healing journey. Stay. I love you. Gotta deal with the situation right now.